Welcome back to another reading and correcting with me, Kindar, the Tiger Writes, and Ty, the Tiger Supervisor. These are where I read a chapter from one of my books and correct it as I go. If you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch. And if you're looking to support me, that is on my Patreon. Today, we are doing chapter 20 of A Series of Death. Marlot looked at the map Stalker 2.0 had constructed for Shortfur's movement. To that, he added information like marking some locations she went to more often than others, her hunting grounds, her workplace, the stores, and where friends and family lived. The program couldn't establish the why of the places she went to, so that fell to him. He intended on marking the ambush areas along the route, but there were too many of them. He couldn't confirm it, but he suspected the city had been designed by predators. Those alleys that looked perfect for prey to lose their hunter in ended up funneling out to ambush points, or have limited exits, unless one could gain access to their home from them. Fleeing to the alleys played in the predator's favor. With that was without considering the safety features on the buildings, like fire escape, which doubled as perch for predators who like to pounce on their meals. Delmer Shortfur stepped out of her house, and Marlowe shadowed her, careful not to be noticed. She seemed nervous. Today was the first day she'd called in sick, and he hadn't expected her to go out since she had ample meat. She was safe from the hunter at this moment. As he'd been forcefully reminded with the moose, the hunter didn't kill outside, but there were others to worry about. Her nervousness and small stature, being a bobcat, could lead someone hungry enough to consider her prey. To ensure he could catch the hunter, he'd have to protect her if some predator tried it. He'd only slow them, give her time to run. He needed to be controlled and focused, a lesson he'd learned with the moose. The store was one she frequented often. It sold a variety of food items and drinks, the kind of things someone might need to tide them over until their next hunt, or to spice up their food. He realized as Delmer brought packages of spice, dried herbs, and some greens from the wide selection of vegetables the store offered for the prey population in the neighborhood. Delmer was a baker, something Stalker 2.0 hadn't noticed. Not that it could. Marlot hadn't known either until he saw her purchases. Was that important? Something he needed better track someone? He'd have to enable the program to get into the store's computers to find that specific person, what a specific person bought. Too complicated for too little returns. Once she was back inside her house, Marlot returned to his car to warm up. He called up the information he had on the other bodies, who Stalker 2.0 didn't have. Though Stalker 2.0 didn't have much luck with them. Information decayed over time as it got stored in private servers, or was simply erased as not important. Had any of them called in sick? Redima had, but he hadn't thought to look at the others. He tried to remember from when handed the ID back. Most had been nervous and at home, but he didn't know if they'd called their workplace. A call came in, unknown number, and he ignored it. A look through the information he'd compiled on Arlen Shines confirmed he'd called in sick. He hadn't made a note about it on Bracken Goldeneyes, but he had called her work. He called again, claiming to be from the Revenue Bureau, and that he was looking to fill in some void in the Jaguar's information. Company were accommodating to the Bureau, so long as they didn't pry too deeply into their productivity, he discovered. Bracken had also called in sick. Before her had been a badger, Aldrich Digger. He couldn't get information from his workplace, but by the time he was done, Malot remembered him. He'd returned his ID just before being forced to return to Low Valley, before his life fell apart, before Trembor walked out on him. A call, the same number. They'd realize they had the wrong person soon enough. He brought up pictures of the lion, his shirt and jacket open to reveal his golden fur, his dark mane flowing over the chest. Marlot closed his eyes and breathed in, trying to recall the scent, the feel of Trembor's arms around him, his body pressing against his. His pad buzzed again, the same number, and this time he stared at it because the alternative was wallowing in self-pity, missing Trembor. 3 times felt like this was no longer a wrong number. Registered investigator Blackclaw speaking, he said, wiping at his eyes. Hello, Mr. Blackclaw, the person greeted him. Or do you prefer Marlot? Can I help you with something? He said, trying to identify the voice. It had no distinct features, no accent, and barely any inflection. Could someone sound like that unless they made an effort? I'll stick to Mr. Blackclaw then. Marlot looked around reflexively. That's fine, but I'd like to know why you called. If you're reporting a body, there's a call in line for that. The person chuckled. I'm calling to say that I'm happy you're feeling better. What? Watching you mope around was getting a little discouraging. So I'm pleased you are finally getting over the breakup. Milo let out a bitter bark. The bitter bark of a laugh. What makes you think I'm over anything? He frowned. Watching him? He studied the people on the street. He'd picked this spot because it had good line of sight to Delmer's small house, but he was in view of anyone looking. I see. Had that been disappointment? The voice was so well controlled. Marlowe couldn't be sure. I thought the energy you displayed in handling the moose meant you were back to your old self. I chuckled. That was quite the display. Marlowe searched harder, watching him, aware of what happened in the precinct. Can I ask you a question? The person asked, then continued, Why did you pay for the Wolverine? You didn't kill her, so she wasn't your responsibility. I was hungry, he answered before he thought to stop himself. He shouldn't be providing any information to this person. Not if they were who he thought they were. How could he find out? How closely did they watch him? As for being over anything, Arnold said, I will never be over losing my cougar. Perfect. The laughter was more like that of a female. This couldn't be a child, but when they continued, they sounded almost like a male. You are well enough to try to trick me. The way their voice was in that indistinct range was maddening. But I need to know. Do you really need the lion in your life to be better, or did you just say that as part of trying to trick me? Why do you care? Vallo replied, far angrier than he intended. The hesitation felt genuine. I'm not. The sigh had a hint of annoyance in it. It's important. I can't tell you why. Why was his relationship with Trembor important to this person? The confusion made him hesitate. He shouldn't be telling them anything. I need him, he admitted. I need to hear his voice, catch his scent. Then why did you storm off when you met him? Didn't I give you both the perfect opportunity to talk? You're the hunter. At least he didn't need to come up with a way to get them to admit that now. I am. Might have been smugness in the tone. I tried to talk to him, Ronald said, then sighed. He won't tell me anything. He acted like I don't know, like I told him he couldn't see his nieces and nephews ever again. That seems rather extreme of a reaction. You don't know how attached he is to his family. Our relationship always this difficult? Ronald frowned. Don't you know? Another hesitation. Not really. None of the people I've asked have been very forthcoming. Asked? Haven't you been in a relationship? The silence stretched. Not in something like what you and Trembor had, or those I asked. He shouldn't be talking to the hunter. Shouldn't be engaging with them. It wasn't like he'd gain anything from this, except maybe clues as to who they were. I guess it can be difficult. I didn't see the breakup coming. Before that, we were both happy. Well, I thought we were. So you were always happy until he walked away. Of course not, Mello chuckled. Life isn't simple. We had arguments and disagreement, but we talked. We resolved it. Even when we argued, when I was with him, I felt more alive than any time before or after. Wait, how did they know Trembor had walked away? I need to know one last thing, the hunter said. And this is extremely important. Mello rolled his eyes. Go ahead. This game was starting to be tedious. It felt like Marlot was the only one giving information. If you had the chance for an honest conversation with the lion, to understand his reason, for him to understand why you did what you did, would you take it? Of course! Marlot answered, why do you think I keep trying to call him? Trying to find ways to get him to talk to me. I need him. Good. Good? Oh, are you fucking kidding me? Look, I'm done playing. Why are you doing this? Why are you sending me those IDs? Sending me those ideas. You are the one doing that, right? I'm not dealing with two people who are off the trail, right? I called to say thank you for keeping our game private. When you went to the office with the bear, I was worried you'd tell her what was going on. Having to deal with more people would have been bothersome. Game? This isn't a game. You're leaving bodies to rot. They got what they deserved. The words were cold, the voice deeper, definitely male. Marlot decided. I gave them a chance. They didn't take it. What chance? That's not important. Now you need to know the ideas. Why? You had to know I'd work things out with them. Is that why you sent them to me? Hunters were insane, Marlot reminded himself. I knew, and yes, that's why I sent them to you. To be honest, I was hoping we'd be done with this by now, but your relationship issues did get in the way. That was out of either of our control, I think. You want me to catch you? That ran contrary to what he'd read, to what he'd experienced with Ruxel. Hunters were supposed to get off on the feeling of killing, to never want to stop. It was why they did it in the end. Ruxel had fought hard to prevent being stopped. I have to be stopped. Marlon didn't know what to say to the sadness in the voice. Or was that his imagination? Marlon wanted the hunter to feel remorseful for what he did. If you know you have to be stopped, turn yourself over to the enforcer. It hurt to say it. It would cost him the chance to show Trembor he could catch the hunter the right way, but this was the right thing to do. Maybe he could get the hunter to tell the lion he turned himself over because of this conversation. No. Mallet fought against the relief he felt. Do you or don't you want to be stopped? Was that all, or was all of this just meaningless words to get me to open up to you? A soldier does not surrender to the enemy. Definitely a male voice. The soldier mentioned would make him someone from the protectors, or who he imagined himself as one of them. The enforcers aren't the enemy. They're there to keep everyone safe. A thought. As a thought to test the male, he added, just like the protectors do. The snort was loud, but the hunter didn't add anything. When the silence stretched, Mallet asked, if you aren't going to turn yourself over, why not just stop? The research said they couldn't, but why was never addressed. I tried, the hunter said after a silence. At first, I thought just fighting you would be enough to keep the urge in check. They'd fought? But it didn't work. Mallet tried to remember everyone he fought while waiting for the hunter to continue. They'd fought others at the gym while waiting for Trembor to he'd fought others at the gym while waiting for Trembor to arrive on days where the lion couldn't make it, but he'd never kept track. He realized the silence had gone long. Whatever the hunter had started to say, he couldn't complete. Then end it, Malot said. Turn yourself into meat. The hunter sighed. Could you give up? Could you abandon your mission before it's complete? Leaving bodies to rot isn't a mission. I'm not breaking one of our core laws. But you are breaking laws. The hunter replied, why aren't you stopping? Because I do what I do in order to get things done, Marlot snapped. Same as me. The hunter replied, and Marlot was certain he heard a smile in the voice. And the rotting bodies aren't my mission. They are a side effect. The hunters were insane, Marlot decided. Fine, why me? At first, it was because I needed you to stop me, he sighed. Now, I'm not sure if I can afford to have you stop me. At least, not until I fix things. I do wish I could stop myself, but it's already too late this time, isn't it? What are you? The chuckle made him stop and stare at the house. Before he could ask the hunter what he'd done, the call ended. Malot ran to the house and banged on the door. When no answers came, he considered hacking the log, but that would be evidence he'd been here. And since he had her ID, he'd be considered the killer and forced to pay her tax. Maybe she wasn't dead. Maybe she was a heavy sleeper. Even if it was early for a nap, he ran around to the back of the house, checking every window he passed. He found her body in the kitchen. The back door was unlocked, but he didn't go in. Didn't touch it in case some of his fur stuck to the handle. This wasn't his territory. He just looked at her through the glass. He brought up the number the hunter had called from and called it back. Music came from tall grass by the fence, separating the backyard from the alley. It was vaguely familiar. Music from some action movie, he thought. He had to call it again before he located the pad. With it in hand, he looked into the alley. But into the alley, no one stood in it, waiting for Marlowe to see them before running off. But he had the hunter's pad now. Hopefully, he'd be able to get information from it using the alley. Using the alley to walk to his car, he called the reporting line using the hunter's pad. This ensured the body would be in a freezer before it rotted. Once the hunter was caught, it would be released and it would feed someone. This concludes chapter 20 of a series of death. If you are enjoying this, please leave a like. If you want to know when the next chapter is going to be up, subscribe and hit the bell. If you want to read the book as well as the others in the series, and they are available at all major e-retailer. If you're looking for a different way to support me, that is on my Patreon. And if you're looking to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch. The links are in the notes, and with that, I shall wish you a good day.